skills on inferences. We are going to be looking at various things that help us to make those conclusions using what I know plus facts and details. Our objectives are we are going to look at characters, setting, and other events to help us. Plus, we're going to make inferences using specific details from the text. Today, we're going to decide what really is inference. You are going to be the detective in finding the clues to help us make these inferences. Inference is the process of arriving at a conclusion based on factual knowledge or evidence. In our words, we would say, what I know plus facts and details equals inference. Let's take a look at a picture. We see here 3 different pictures of people placing a balloon on their head. In picture 1, he's placed it there, but look what happens after they have rubbed the balloon on their hair. Why does the hair move toward the balloon and stand alone? Well, let's make a conclusion. Once I rub that balloon, what is it that is going to happen? If you said in your conclusion that static electricity forms and causes the hair to stand up, you are correct. Good job. Now we're going to look at some pictures and we're going to draw some conclusions based on what we see. Looking at this picture, I want to look at it carefully. I see in the background picnic tables, but I also see a little girl. Now, I know when I am at a picnic table, there's usually eating that is going to be done. Looking at this little girl, she's making a terrible face. And we have to decide, what is it that's making her make this terrible face? If you look very closely, you can see that she is eating a lemon, and it must be soured based upon the face that she's making. Let's try another example. Let's look at these 2 maps of the United States. Above one map, it says Verizon Wireless, and above the other, it says AT&T. What inference can you make based upon the colors we see in this map? I'm going to give you a minute to think. If you said that Verizon is more used than AT&T, very good job. You are correct. Now let's go back in time when we studied colonial America and the American Revolution. Based on these pictures, I see that there are animals that are working. I see that there is an animal that is pulling something, and I also see pictures of tools. Based on these images, what do you think is happening? Can you draw a conclusion? Well, if you said that they relate to colonial America and farming, you are correct. Now we are going to practice. We are going to use skills to make inferences. When we use these skills, we will draw conclusions based upon details found within the text. Let's look at the first short passage. Josh woke up early on Saturday morning and put on warm clothing. After quickly eating some breakfast, they went to the garage to get their fishing poles and the box of worms. They got in the car and drove to the lake. Soon they were sitting in a boat out on the water. Based on this text, they want us to draw some conclusions. Where do you think Josh and his dad are going to have for dinner, and how do you know that? Well, let's look back in the passage. It says very clearly that they got some worms. That's a clue. They got some fishing poles. Another clue. They went to the lake. Based on these 3 pieces of evidence, what did you say that they were going to eat? If you said fish, awesome! Give yourself a high five. Let's look at another short passage. Looking at this short passage, It says the crew advised the passengers to fasten their seatbelts. When everyone was aboard, a flight crew gave instructions of the emergency exits and what to do in case of emergencies. The pilot welcomed the passengers and told the estimated time to arrive at the nation's capital as they taxied down the runway. Let's see what we need to answer with this short text. What is the setting of this event? Where are they going? And how do you know it? Well, let's look at some clues. What is the setting? I have several clues in my passage. They fastened their seatbelt, and the flight crew gave emergency exit instructions. Based on these clues and looking at your passage, where are they? If you said that they are on a plane, great job. Give yourself a pat on the shoulder. Where are they going? Well, this may be a little bit more difficult. It said they were going to the nation's capital. Now, let's think. What is the nation's capital? If you said Memphis, that is not correct. But the nation's capital is, if you said Washington, D.C., awesome. That is correct. Now, let's take one last look at an example in a text. You come into the building and you greet all of your friends. You have a seat on a long bench. You go and place the 6-month-old baby girl in the area reserved for babies. You return to your seat where you can listen for the baby and yet you can see. Everyone rises at the beginning to participate in singing a song from the hymnal. I feel so happy to be there. Where are you at and how do you know? Well, let's look for some clues. First of all, it says that they go to a long seat. Okay, let's put that in our mind. It also says that at the beginning, everyone rises to sing a song from a hymnal. So where could I be where I sing a song from a hymnal and it has a long seat? If you chose church or a mosque, you are correct. Great job. Now, what do I do when I make inferences? Sometimes we get to use graphic organizers, and you get to participate in activities. In this graphic organizer, you can see that we look for explicit information. Explicit means things that we know. And I use those details to arrive at my conclusion. So being the detective, you have to look for the clues. Now, as we come to the end, let's look at our objectives. We explained what the text was saying using specific details, and we made inferences using these details. Now, as your exit ticket, you are going to have the opportunity to draw an inference on your own. Let's look at what your exit ticket says. Looking at the picture that will be shown, text, dojo, or email the teacher the answer to the following question. What do all these pictures have in common, and how do you know? Now let's go back. What are you going to do? You're going to look at the picture. You're going to think, what do they all have in common? And you're going to tell, how do you know it? And once you know this, you're going to send it to your teacher either by text, dojo, or email. Let's look at this picture. This is your exit ticket. What do you do on Sunday? Look at these things that you see. You are to use these pictures to draw your conclusion. Looking forward to seeing all the answers.